true.
Everything in this poems is true.
mIEKAL aND lives outside the constraints of academia in the most lush and rural part of the unglaciated, driftless area of southwest Wisconsin. Cue violins. Choosing to focus on creating wilderness and abundance surrounded by the perfect setting for limitless imagination, his course of action includes demonstrating alternatives to inbred aesthetics, delighting in the play of DIY culture, and making art and writing that is both anarchic and noisy. And is the author of numerous books, many available via, I always mispronounce that, Zizaxiel editions. After many years working in the realms of digital poetry and video, he has surrendered his role as author and focused exclusively on interactions that allow the author to be reconfigured by the mysteries of the collaborative process, including books with Maria Damon, Sheila Murphy, and Jeff Huth. Please welcome mIEKAL aND.
Now that my introduction killed the author, I'm actually going to read some authorial pieces. I wrote a novel when I was living here in Madison. In fact, I wrote the whole novel in a bar on the east side called the Willie Bear, which some of you people might remember. And at the time it was sort of a punk bar, and so the novel has a character who is modeled after Bucky of the Tar Babies, if any of you guys know Bucky Pope. And I'm going to read it takes place in three places. It takes place in Baghdad in 1000 AD, it takes place in New York City in 2000 AD, and this was written in 1986, so it was in the future. And then it takes place in the year 3000 in Penguin Island, which is a metaphor for New Zealand, which is supposedly is the only place that will survive nuclear devastation. Bystander in Irreality. Chapter 1, Retardando. She stepped out of the last vapor lock with her head on her shoulders, though the day before an unforgettable industrial nightmare creeping like an undiscovered plague unsettled the 360 degrees of a city. Just any city left in situationist culture, but never having been there before, my knowledge is secondhand, word of mouth, a studied colloquium eliminated from record. By now, there isn't hair anymore, she said. She is bald from the shoulders up. I back into a corner and stare in disbelief, or charm, and the moment washes carelessly to the next. After having navigated the horn of nowhere, I was content to look away as she blushed and fit into a black transparent chemise and thigh-high zebra-patterned boots. Atmosphere. Atmosphere. I remember you vaguely from the satellite transmission. She slammed a drawer and a door simultaneously, but randomly and from the heart. Poison bitter fruit was left uneaten in the sill, a pale sepia light barely disturbing the darkness of the room. The radio of somebody yet to enter the room was announcing, "Clamps by now have secured all negative positioning of the planet and equilibrium has been achieved by semantics." A portion of the population had migrated beyond the horizon, and I worried that our culture would thinly evaporate and be left to the Homo insectus types who would thrive on the radium haze. I bent over to pull splinters out of my only shoe, and she sidled up against me. "Balboa, I'm sizzling," she said. Her look, and I liked it, kept me chasing a conspicuous groin sensation. If I ignored it, I started hearing the radio in the next room with a robotic announcer, and if I participated in the throb, a panicked flush hurdled my intellect. I looked away. I nearly looked back. A radio. Yet it was a largish house, false doors leading to privacy and hidden chambers, two-way mirrors, and a double-sided vertigo. Not knowing who lived there, I was edgy and reminded of sleeping selfishly next to the woman I first, her pregnant belly kicking, her dark lips pursed, her husband gambling with an unborn destiny. "Oh, Balboa, I'm bruised and ready to leave with you. I gotta make it to the other side. Somebody's coming. We gotta, Balboa, see our way out of here, at least far enough ahead of situationist culture," or she unhooked her black nails from my skin. "I'll be preempted, remodeled, updated, and put to sleep." Incredibly, Grace betrayed malicious rumors. Balboa lived dangerously on the brink of subjective time. She recounted from memory. I continued to sing, carried on like slaughtered rabbits in a dim, vanishing room, and periodically he would come to the door and in doses watch me with disgust, photographing me with a burning strobe, and then through other openings others would flock and press their mascaraed faces and fattish hair against the glass bars. The sounds I would make after hours of artistic resignation could never be recorded, wouldn't register on magnetic tape, but instead strange, garbled, marsupial voices appeared with no apparent explanation. Thousands of timpani rumbled from the 360-degree horizon as she choked in mid-sentence and failed to humanly continue. I knew we had to leave soon, or the consonants of the location would retaliate. She offered no resistance as I unlocked the door and guarded her against the metallic atmosphere. More than one situation had passed since she had stepped out of the vapor lock and easily had spent her courage and vitality. On whim and intuition, I surveyed each direction and chose the eastern. She gladly smiled with relief and wrapped herself around me beneath my floor-length overcoat. I felt querulous and moody like darts, and needles were piercing my skin. In a foreign landscape, escaping the warring factory life, harboring criminal seduction beneath my coat. She, as I knew her, grew heavy as all chaos aligned. I was more than I had been and too young to be psychological. We dodged the helter-skelter gear and sprocket landscape. She was contemptuous luggage more than anything, and I never looked back because he were yelling, guttural, masculine, experiments decide the foremost species and corrections. Yes, the corrections. It is I evaded. Balboa, I can't sing, she sang. There are only bystanders, bodyish, hairless mannequins with chiseled features and historical preeminence, a uniform. I wrangled a notion for impact lest we get snared by the Aryans. We are headed toward the city with a holographic mausoleum, culturally opposite realism and aggression, I should think. For the first time it dawned on me that a behavior could exist beyond survival and the preparation for survival. A lifetime of Vietnam's had nearly made me mutant, the constant negotiation with annihilation. I couldn't remember if I'd ever matured or if I'd ever continued in consequent lives, but I knew I was leaving a city like a city I might have lived in had I only existed. Or was this the crux of it? Matter broached the situation, and my dialect turned from thoughts to objects in a world of reversing survival. I hugged her, my emigre, closer, and wondered if she had a name, a personality, and if she was anatomically possible. Or was this the crux of it? And then I'm going to read the last page. The next novel I write will contain no recognizable words. When I was in high school, I started a long poem called Samsara Conjuries, and it took me 35 years to finish it. And now it's taken another 12 years to get it published. It seems like it takes forever. I'm going to just sort of read through this different sections. It's 18 books. Each book is myself, the author, reincarnated as different characters. Obviously, when I started out writing in the middle 70s, the characters are much more identifiable as characters. After being exposed to experimental writing and language poetry and so forth, the notion of character becomes more and more abstract as you work your way through the book. This is from the first section called Raw Sway Aloud. It's a poem called The Raggedy Man Music. To make an unfavorable report, to complain, to speak. The chief complained that the rails had been stolen again by the Klamath Lake Indians, to exchange goods, to follow the bartering trade, to exhibit to each other Jew's harp, music, produced on instruments of every description, piano, cornet, pan flute, drum, to drop, let fall, love, to love something from a set or from a place to which it belongs, as buttons from a dress, beads or rings from the body, brush lodge, to bet, to make bets, to stake for a bet. They would make various bets, stakes, game stake, to receive back by exchanging for other articles, to reobtain by bartering or by payment or by money, to become rusty, to rust. Iron gets rusty, full of rust, slay, murder. 2 men were killed to show, to exhibit, to let see. I will let you see. He showed him that he had written to show himself to appear wildfire, jack's lantern, what shows itself, large whole apron buttoned on back to become rusty, cushion of chair, top as a plaything, to live as man and wife, to consort, to live in concubinage. From a section called As a Wet Line Knots Easily, Women Venomous. Him, believe the striker. His, how. Him, make quincunx. His, I'm. Him, it. His, it. Him, each optional. His, and in resurgent. Him, the and face. His, window venerate. Him, that doesn't reel. His, over not your muse. Him, mine gone and straddles. His, I'm matter I thought. Him, here behavior. His, guide. Him, overkind, the God never human at home want. His, to shake. Him, oh to that. His, whatever not there. Him, the metal but a man. His, brightly be wonder you variation. Him, to glance. His, what's lyric. Him, God wind. His, that have home. Him, I'm in and not and. His, I'm too, but. Him, never spine. His, gone shimmy. Him, gone to him. His, night up to. Plate and eat from both sides too. Anima through me. I vie, I take on. Snowman. 3 snow balls. This is from Kant. Lame flare. Set down as distinctly passing all such fast flare through the sticky eyes of slang, to contain on your own the bound and left inside, and the cramp, even the morning lump in your throat heating an event of tea. You are quit urgency, but belong to the sentence at hand. Each word you've bent is decided by color. It attend and connect all previous futures. Stand for that which in supporting will relay, will gladden the gap. For you, slang, component of your own two hands, yours, tied knuckle to knuckle, tender, a single nervous touch. One of my favorite books I ever wrote, I was at a residency in Ragdale, which is north of Chicago, Lake Forest, and I had the experience of staying in this room. I was in the bed of a woman who had died in that bed the year previous, exactly the same day actually, a year later. And she decided to narrate a book to me in the course of a night in about 10 hours. And so this is all received writing. And it's called Body of Laws, Refrains From. I'll just read one refrain. So I decide which one. Refrain 6. Seeing animal, heaven's a spy, wearing spectacles has a wide view. Serpent drew a black line of contemplation. The part bear inhabits the Andes. Spectromeditation, which searches art without science, addicted to subtle lords, although simply looking forward to some scene of occurrence. One who is trading any phantom or taking risk. The chance of light decomposes time with prisms. Around God sits on the retina which amuse spectators. This eve, after gazing at some bright color, winning the title of spectator, the female ordered the eye to be sunk near the middle of the peninsula. The eye of all things is obstacle to romantic dreamers. The spy gambling stone and the chance of seeing specters. A transparent character indulges in the unreal. Mica flakes. This vision reflects immediate danger. A light-sensitive mirror, smooth and metallic, carried out a wild vision, a pair of horses upon mid-air which shook me in a supernatural dream. Brilliant colors, there is a probability of life spent on stars, or visions adapted to the poetic eye. Watching a phantom poet look once more at the brain. A dread spy it as an apparition. Look out, she has no experience for liking writers. Thoughts as a bookseller. Heavy insects combed the star, while a sudden fire-breathing witch stood before us. We stretched our arms like uncertain bats and recognized the occult analogies nearly suppose a greater body. No, suppose science knew the occult power of seeing. So reigns the earth. Disabled by mythology, Traggy fine-leaf lip syncs. Chariots begin by complying to the standards established by well-known courtesans of previously unknown centuries, henceforth remembered at will. Act of volition by now remember at will the cherry optics of the volcanic sky, and in this tendency any small coalition of words becomes no larger, no smaller than others. The markings of the poet are not flesh tones, are not for that matter even extraordinary or even distinguishable by happen chance. We make. Time and again its predecessor has instance of beginning without words and without anything of it. This makes sense. I keep telling the immediate available by motion's energy. That I am whose fool is no apparent contradistinction, or for that matter, reconstructed formula. Yield. I am the blank voice of my genes. Clear for speech this entry. What is standing in the past? The man in the doorway is dealing with the job that is his work. Escaroles. Part of one hand left behind, and what learned intoxicant holds elegance, and while the simple effluviance increases a minute cut-up of infraction without thinking accommodations, infinite distractions. Stimulus piles upon the bracket, shown through to transparent, held as belief and stymied concept for ages, the itinerant master maker with the ways to have move. Or up against what the matter is, not one final tact, and for days in the grackle of interaction, the banger up in windows, looking out, shaving heavily, the first appearance of growth. A dog stunted by barking, one bus stopping, another wakemaster rising, an Argo-safe worker looped, deletion and reduction, cast fixate. A kind champion directs wisely the porous future in sight of transmigration, and his heroes so they enrolled over course of honor certain districts, waking up beneath the fortress and the woman beneath me unknown. Relief from the powering ambient psychic buildup, so solvent in the large affairs, but case history within one-on-one, body itself, and then it is out of the garrulous reminding, shaken for a place on a rostrum wall hanging. In place of one head hanging aloft, sunken or reminded into shape habits, richly mind-embodied anxiety lapse. Everyone stands behind their equestrian pairing on outward, but for daily questioning. 2. On the border between recent verbs are dropped off from what the daylight we say or drive or command over with, nothing new to say, and a heavy head is constantly wandering loose of its carriage, shake and take down the ragged flag nostalgia, has to replace all feeling of obsolescence. One instance continues to be overlooked, and Nast catered to misunderstanding, must have taken the pyramid often, and the then memory isn't going for sake of scratched records playing on infinites. The look across the bay is deepened to animal bottom, bodies flinging in, view over the edge, creaming the breakers, Korean jetliner from the sky sunk of infinite warning and mandatory backing. The toy factory makes computers that accomplish the demands of multiple futures, slippery dancing springs, over the continent, apart from lost and departed for want of art. Konai 100 ravaged to be lead down, danger outspoken Argo leviant, slag anchored, tell fish haggard, which lenient alkali parrot drop, the sky is heart rift tansy compatriot weary reveler. The alien crept within the talking interchange, and one by one the talkers dispensed with the gab, and the sallow complexion enraged in the mass. Should the obvious pursuer in depth the vial into the lips, they slake of wonder, and we have no way to impede the wailing effect within the hatred chord. Immediately the loosened dogs rise up to carry, and they so speak that hardness nightly harm at it again. Oh, then, at the foot of lax hurt she, by her head, repeat quizzing turtle dream, had, listing, often materialed, conceal or lay beneath an embalming, once theory warmth. This is from a section called SASC, and for those of you that remember the days before the internet, that stands for self-addressed stamped envelope. Spoil paper, John, Mary, Jane Addams, touchless. Robert has gone in search of a second-hand car. Have you time to listen to a story? We plan on going to the seashore. Try and get some recreation every day. The small child was unequal for the task. She was oblivious to the presence of her friend. I had glad the ordeal was over with. I was not to be taken in by such trickery. Mary seldom or ever misses class. In 10 additional words, the band went over the hill after they turned the page. This is from a section called L equals I equals N equals G equals L equals A equals G equals E, otherwise known as linglage. And this is a section for Charles Bernstein. The cave children of New York are never free. I had 6 of that many. Under the newspaper delivery, the door slipped like an ominous doorbell. Stake lock of who should come. E not satisfying by why show that matter. Done the first year in a platter of self fingertips, destroy, outerwear, terrain came, a plausible, dinty bite trigger, narrow lames to beautify them as if it shall comment. Don't. Tariff protrudes almost twice the cracking. Book of. Every shelf and every dream bat. Only too long the vamber's lock grooves undulate triumph after footloose furry fury. I bang enough impressions, thought total like traps. No dandelions. A section called Nomo Dante. Cancellation. She's browsed ahead as a peer unvault, a Thor slay Gothic, manners aside wry, dissolve, warning, Anglo first-hand by tomb, overseas, requesting familiarity. Older language. Sang wooden, frightly, interest at twang, back of inside, there delete, above, all claws speeding fraternity, but nonetheless alpha municipal, writhing dark new. Resident forgives dictionary, and cancel probability, a dialect face-to-face whispered between sheets hotly, I, her, we dwindle, cause for occasion, fintal wadden, tengestrel, akin to welling epitudinal, there, before, and how, hotly between pandemonium, wizened above movie subtitle, grainy beratnik. This is from a section called Babily, the Destruction of Mindfuck Diplomacy. an edge mountain picture. Instinct could have more to do with a careless desire to contribute possibilities and mountain exactness as time would have it, or taxis to nowhere might deliver. Particles, spleen remover, a rejuvenant, less caustic than denial, mucus plugs, capital frenzy, by gains or houses rankle merits deposit, a cod dinky quavers, forgetting uncle's ancient horticulture waveforms, you gas or breed belief, anyway, so shape of wedge, minus the libretto of Charmsy, eight told others bus cod novel spins, dainty holder for letter forms, and pageant copter gister, ways over island under computational, a hold on wreath stumble, like cockle yes, gender no, but I use gorbid theroid, a waveform of alphabets, natty, calm, baking, westerly, bottle, woo-too, bait, survival, alongside of underneath tore cat off, insects and queasy, most of robes had wedge border tips, look for sky where optical dichotomy resorts lost, babbly node ka, pluck tremor dot edselish, look two ways, scored travel beaver coupons on road edge tapers back to New York, Ho Chin men stood tall, for there is no path, quest ionosphere, prattle indifference until loops terrible gawkle names a wearisome successor, cove would lay solitude, the steering had taken place, load stood on end, eyes told brooder that yes happened no, all took chabs, easy dock mortal dupes, bugle sweeper, unknown query snare sharp bottle snack, a two told all when have ball known wed, blade old had, near gave realm, label gorge in lieu of two mad, quester second, sheet stuck, a quaver melted, a town broken babbly smack.
All right.
I'm going to end with a few pieces from the last section, which is a series of emails. We've gone from typewriter times into internet time by the end of the long poem here. It's from a section called Truth Squeal Vacuum. This is an email to Roland Barthes, grief at ruthless.sexuality. The more ravaging term than perhaps the subject concerned with destruction, grasps at every point but quickly exposes itself. We are all caught up in the truth of leisure of bygone readings, where we can hear the grain of the throat whenever I attempt, without ever introducing anything, the very utterance. The other reading skips nothing. Psychoanalysis must be traversed, but it is doubtless violence must be coded. If it were possible to imagine, we have either the course outside bliss, but not necessarily deplored, except like a bird who understood nothing, only in total atopia. This is an email to Vagina Dentata, writer at bloodbath.typewriter. Since we have halved the hairpin, young travelers coming here, I wipe my tears, obliterated and buried. Why should one care? Riding upwards belongs to another time. 10,000 noises died down. I recall those years. My shadow falls at random. I've known the tramp. I'll never fall behind, choked by feeling, bells ringing in evening sky. My sorrow resembles family stripped clean. This charming beauty keep pace with ambition. Share a farewell cup in a frozen land on her new robe, whip tucked in her sleeve, and showers affection as if we must beg for poverty. Not too much wine. When he wakes up, do we ever wake? Who brings war? I'm tired of poetry. Thanks.